And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, February 19th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So, a variety of different topics. So, we're going to talk about college football. The SEC and the Big Ten, they are meeting. They are discussing a plan to expand the college football playoff. And if their demands are basically not met, they will separate from the rest of college football, from the NCAA. So we'll get into that. We'll also talk about Netflix. Netflix is trying to get a very big piece to the pie when it comes to the NFL. They are trying to get the Sunday afternoon package. So we're going to get into that as well. One of my favorite things to talk about is watching sports on streaming. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Blue Jays failing to agree to a long-term extension with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and where he could potentially end up if he doesn't sign with the Blue Jays after this season. So we'll get into all that. We will also, in the fourth part of the show, so the second half of the NBA starts tonight. Got the Lakers and the Hornets, so kind of a Lakers segment. Give you my thoughts on the Luka trade as well. Obviously it won't be the first game he's playing with the Lakers, but I wanted to give you my thoughts on that as well. And also, it doesn't look like LeBron is going to be playing tonight and for the next couple of games, dealing with his injuries. So just get into all that. And then in the final part of the show, something I was going to talk about on the last show, the football show, but got pushed back a little bit. I wanted to get into Dak Prescott and his comments on the Cowboys and him believing that the Cowboys are close when competing with the Eagles. So I wanted to get into that as well. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about college football. So like I said, the SEC and the Big Ten are meeting to discuss, and both parties seem to be on board with this. Now it's all about getting everybody else to jump on board, and that is expanding the college football playoff even more. So right now, we're at 12-team format, and look, I really enjoyed it this year. Now, some of the games were not great. There were some blowouts, but I thought it was pretty entertaining. And if it wasn't for this new format, Ohio State, who won the national championship, they wouldn't have won the national championship. They would have been out, especially with that loss to Michigan at the end of the year. So I really did enjoy it. But now the SEC and the Big Ten want to take it a bit further and expand it to either a 14 or a 16 team format. And this is how the structure of this new format would be. So the SEC and the Big Ten, the top two teams from each conference would receive automatic berths in the playoff. So for this season, the top two teams were Oregon and Indiana, so they would automatically get in. And then for the SEC, you'd have Texas and Georgia. They would be automatically in. So now you would have teams ranked 3rd through 6th within the conference. They would compete in playing games to determine the additional playoff participants. So for this season, you would have had Penn State versus Illinois, and then Ohio State versus Iowa. And then in the SEC, you'd have Tennessee versus Alabama and Ole Miss versus Missouri. Now, for the other conferences, the ACC and the Big 12, the top team from each conference gains direct entry. But then the teams that are ranked 2nd and 3rd, they would face off for additional spots. So SMU, they won the ACC this year, so they would get in automatically. But then you would have Clemson versus Miami for another berth. And then in the Big 12, Arizona State, they would have got in. So it would have been BYU versus Iowa State for another berth. And then you would have one spot that is geared towards the group of 5. So that would have been Boise State this year out of the Mountain West. And then there's the at-large spot, which basically would be reserved for Notre Dame because they're an independent team. And they would have to rank within the top 14. Now, this would basically take out the committee because the committee decides most of this, or pretty much all of this, the seedings and all that. Basically, how they would determine, I guess, the matchups, the rankings, or the seedings, it would basically be off of their rankings. So they would base their ranking, they would base how the playoffs are set up on the rankings that the committee puts out. Yeah, so this format reduces subjective decisions as teams earn spots based on conference performance and rankings. Now, the potential drawbacks to this, teams could theoretically lose all non-conference games, yet they still make the playoffs by excelling in their own conference. And scenarios like a 6-way tie for 4th place in the SEC can complicate playoff determinations. Now, if they want to do a 16-team format, this would allow automatic bids for champions of all major conferences, including the newly restructured Pac-12 and American Athletic Conference, or permit the Big 12 and ACC to have 3 teams each. So I think with the 6-team format, like you would still have buys, I think with the 14-team format, but with 16 teams, you'd have no buys. So everybody's playing at the same time, basically. Whereas, you look at the 12-team format, you had, the 4 teams that were on bye. You had 4 teams that were on the bye. And I think pretty much all of them lost, right? Because Oregon lost, Boise State lost. I'm trying to think, who am I missing? I know that, those teams lost, but yeah, the teams that were on the bye were kind of at a disadvantage. Well, actually, let me go back and check on that really quickly. So, yeah, looking at the playoff bracket. So, yeah, we got that, Ohio State. It's not letting me. Oh, wait, here we go. Okay. I don't know why it wasn't letting me. So, yeah, Arizona State had a bye. They lost. Oregon lost. Boise State lost. Notre Dame was the only team that didn't have a bye that won. So I just wanted to go back and look at that. But, you're going to have people that are on board with this new format, but you're also going to have people that are not. And, the SEC and the Big Ten, they have the power to do this right now because they're the top 2 conferences. And, if their demands are not met, right now they could say, all right, well, we're going to do our own thing. So I wanted to get into some quotes from a Yahoo article that I was looking at. So, like I said, there are people that are in favor of this. There are people that are going to be against it. Earlier this week, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips told Yahoo Sports, the ACC has not cemented a position on a format, but there needs to be fairness and access to the championship. It needs to be a true championship, not artificial, not an invitational. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark says his conference has been exploring predictive analysis on what different playoff models would mean for conference participation if applied in the recent history of the postseason. I'll be armed with data. You also have the American Athletic Conference Commissioner weighing in on this. College football is stronger than ever. As the CFB evolves, we have a responsibility to student athletes, the integrity of the game, and our fans to build a future that includes expanded access for every conference. Yeah, and by doing this new format, you're kind of preventing some of these other conferences from, representing in the playoffs because, you're giving the SEC and the Big Ten these playoff spots, but that lessens the chance of some of these other teams to get in. But like I said, the SEC and the Big Ten right now, they are the top 2 conferences. So they feel like, hey, we're the best of the best. We deserve as much representation as we can. So I do get that. But, and the other thing too is, more playoff games, more money. Everybody's happy with that. You could also say that too. So I do get it from both sides. Because, if they were to wait any longer, I mean, college football is trying to level the playing field. So some of these lesser conferences, they have a better fighting chance against some of these bigger schools with all the changes that have happened over the years. But, if they're able to do this now, like I said, you're not going to be able to have these schools, some of these lesser schools, if they, have good seasons and they deserve to be in, but they can't because there's limited spots. That's not right from that perspective. But it is interesting. Now, I believe this will go into effect after next season. But we got to see if people, the other conferences, they agree to it. So it is interesting because I know this is, I definitely feel like I did a similar topic on this on the football show because I remember talking about this in our production meeting as well, that, the Big Ten and the SEC were, planning on leaving the rest of college football. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. But let me know what you guys think. I hope I explained that as best as I could. We were provided information on this, so I wanted to use it because it was well organized. But let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. How do you feel about a change in the playoff format? Let me know in the comments. I liked the playoff format the way it was this year, if I'm going to be honest. But, hey, more games. I mean, a lot of people are going to say yes to that. But we'll have to wait and see how it goes. So we are going to take our first break. When we come back, we will talk about the NFL and how Netflix is trying to, bid on maybe getting the Sunday afternoon package. So we'll talk about that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about Netflix trying to maybe get the rights to the Sunday afternoon package in the NFL. So I did see this on X, and then I looked into it more. And, yeah, this is a legit thing. This is a legit thing. So Netflix, of course, they broadcasted the two games on Christmas, and they got marquee names, doing the coverage and doing the broadcast. And, it was a good broadcast. And I know there were some people that were skeptical of it because of, some of the issues with some of the other sports, the WWE, that there was, or not the WWE. It was the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight. How that was buffering. People were dealing with that. And, there were some concerns about it going into the 2 games, but it was fine. It was fine. Now, you guys know me. I'm all about tradition. I'm all about keeping things the way they are. So, naturally, I'm going to tell you I'm not a fan of this. Now, for Netflix, it's easy accessible. It's easy to access for me. But it's just, having to go to a streaming platform and pulling up my game that I want to watch. Rather than, hey, turn on the TV, go to the channel, and there you go. Now, for a majority of the year, pretty much the whole year, I was watching Red Zone. Any kind of Red Zone. Or just a Sunday ticket. Because, being from the New York area, the teams that I'm forced to watch weren't very good. So I would be trying to watch games that were better. Or at least just skip around to other games. So this is a big deal, though. This is a big deal because for years now, CBS and Fox have owned those time slots. And Netflix, they dipped their toes into the NFL, and the numbers did good. The numbers did good with the 2 games that they aired. Now, were the games great? No, because they were 2 blowouts. Kansas City blew out Pittsburgh, and the Ravens blew out the Texans. Now, I think when Netflix originally took those games, and I thought to myself, yeah, these games aren't going to be that bad. Yeah, they were awful. They were awful. Now, Fox has had the rights to the NFC package. Fox acquired the NFC package from CBS in 1994, and CBS snatched the AFC package from NBC in 1998. I mean, Sunday afternoon has been controlled by those 2 networks for years. Now, they've kind of changed some things where you have, like 2 AFC teams will be playing on Fox or 2 NFC teams will be playing on CBS. They sometimes will do that. Which, to me, growing up, yeah, AFC teams would be on Fox. AFC matchups would be on Fox. Now, or AFC matchups would be on CBS. NFC matchups would be on Fox. And then, you'd have times where, there'd be an NFC team playing an AFC team on CBS or vice versa. But this is the interesting part. Now, this is on NBCSports.com. So the current broadcast deal runs through 2033. However, the league has the right to pull the plug on the deal 4 years early, and it likely will. So it is possible that we could be watching Sunday afternoon games, not just on Christmas, but regular Sunday football on Netflix. So I'm telling you right now, if you are watching this and you don't have a Netflix account, you better make one because it's coming. It is coming. And I feel bad for the older generation because it's just now look, I have my grandma, she has access to these streaming platforms, so it's not going to be a problem for her, but there's going to be groups of people that they're going to be like, what happened to football? Now I got to go and get this Netflix and pay, extra money. I get it. It's tough. It is annoying, but that's just where everything is going. That is where the Super Bowl will be going at some point. And maybe you might have to pay to watch the Super Bowl. Maybe it's a pay-per-view. I hope not, but it's going to happen at some point. Because if Netflix didn't do well, then then they wouldn't be bidding for the NFL. Well, we don't know that. We don't know for sure. It's a hypothetical, but they did do well. Even though the games were not great, the simple gameplay, but people tuned in to watch the games. So Netflix takes that and goes, okay, well, we want to take it a step further. We want to control Sunday. And it's possible that it could happen as soon as, I guess, this year, this upcoming season. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now, you figure if that does happen, a lot of these broadcasters are going to go over to Netflix. But it just, now it's like, well, how are the playoffs going to shape out? I mean, are the championship games are going to be on Netflix? Because Fox and CBS have been doing the championship games for years. Not just, I mean, obviously they've been controlling, the regular season, but now Netflix. So the NFC Championship game, the AFC Championship game, they're going to be on Netflix. That means they'd be one step closer to getting the Super Bowl on a streaming platform. And I don't want that to happen, but that is where we're going. There is nothing that we could do about it. We are just going along for the ride. We are going along for the ride. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe they get, games like they got on Christmas where, you'll have like an exclusive game on Netflix. Maybe it's for the international games. Because that's also a possibility. Because a lot of times those games will be on NFL Network. I know ESPN Plus. It could be something like that. But I don't know. They want everything. That's a big chunk of the pie. And then you figure, another streaming platform's going to come in and say, we want Sunday Night Football. I mean, now NBC owns Peacock, but, and you got Amazon that already has Thursday Night Football. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's just something that was interesting that I thought I should cover. Because that's where everything's going. Everything's going. You got all these apps that you need. I just downloaded the Gotham Sports app last night. Just in case if I'm on the go and, there's a Yankee game I want to watch. I could put it on my phone. It's a combination of the YES Network and MSG, the MSG app. So, you get Knicks, Rangers, Islanders, all the teams that are on MSG, which, it's good. It's good to have that. But there's no exclusive Yankee game that's going to be airing on the YES. Well, spring training, there'll be games that air on this app. But in the regular season, it's either YES or the Yankees are on Amazon Prime on certain days. There's like 20-something games. So, but I keep saying it. That is where everything is going. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. The only way it would stop is if people just did not watch it. Like I said, if Netflix's numbers were not great on Christmas, people didn't tune in and watch the NFL on Christmas, this probably doesn't happen. But because the numbers did great, people tune in. They're gonna keep putting their foot forward, and they want to take a big chunk of this pie, most of the pie. They want to control your Sundays. Come to their platform and watch the games. So, and like I said, we're going along for the ride. I would be tuning in. So they got us, and like I said, there's really nothing we can do about it. Unless you just don't want to watch it, but we're going to watch it on whatever platform. So let me know what you guys think about that. Interesting development there. So we are going to, before we go to our first break, I just want to remind you guys once again tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will turn things over to baseball. We will talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays. So they were not able to agree to a long-term deal. So he's going to be testing free agency next season. And we'll talk about, if he's going to stay with the Blue Jays. Is he going to end up going elsewhere? We'll get into all that when we come back. So some more baseball talk. It's been nice to be able to talk about it once again here on this platform. So that is what we'll get into, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays. So they failed to reach an agreement on a long-term deal, and he's going to test free agency after the 2025 season. And, I said, is he going to come back? Is he going to go to another team? I believe that this will be Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s last season with the Blue Jays. I think he's going to end up playing elsewhere. And the top two destinations, the top two favorites, it's the Red Sox and the Mets. Now, there's ties there. You got Rafael Devers with the Red Sox, and then, with the Mets, you got Juan Soto. So, I think Vlad would want to go play with one of those guys. Now, he does love being a Blue Jay, and he wants to stay, but at the same time, if the numbers aren't what he wants for a new contract, he's going to be playing elsewhere. And I just think Steve Cohen with the Mets, I'd probably lean towards him going to the Mets because of how Pete Alonso's deal is structured. Now, if Pete Alonso has a really good year for the Mets, he's going to opt out. And if he opts out, well, now the Mets have an opening at first base. And Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is available. So they would probably sign him. And Steve Cohen, like with Juan Soto, he will outbid everyone. No one is going to offer him more money because it's going to be exactly what it was with Soto. If it's the Red Sox and the Mets or the Blue Jays, and they're bidding, Steve Cohen is going to keep going higher and higher and higher until the other team is going to say, yeah, we're good. We're done. So I would say Vlad is going to end up there. I do think because there's, the rumblings about it. And like I said, if Pete Alonso has a good year and he opts out, there you go. But could the Blue Jays somehow sway him to stay, it's possible. But the fact that they were negotiating and they were not able to come to an agreement, and it seems like they were apart on the numbers, it's not encouraging. And the Blue Jays are a team that, over and over again, these last few off seasons, you hear their name connected to some of these big free agents. They were in on Ohtani, they were in on Soto, and they walked away with nothing. There was that instance when Ohtani was a free agent, and there's people tracking a plane that is flying to Toronto, and they're saying, that's Ohtani, he's going to be a Blue Jay, and that ended up not being the case. People were going crazy. But yeah, it's just the Blue Jays, they have struck out on these big free agents, and now one of their own could be leaving. And the Blue Jays, it's been a very disappointing era of baseball for them, because at one point they had this team with Teoscar Hernandez, Vlad, Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien, George Springer, Alejandro Kirk, the pitching staff, Alek Manoah, right? They had this team that it looked like, hey, they're going to be a threat for a long time with this core. And they didn't win anything. And they ended up losing guys. Semien left. Teoscar Hernandez. It still does not make sense why they traded him. They made that trade for Dalton Varsho, but they traded Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And then I think they also traded someone else in the deal too. That ended up turning out to be a good player. Was it Perdomo on the Diamondbacks? And he actually recently just got an extension. Because I think he was... I think I'm wrong. It's not Perdomo. It was another player. But either way, I mean, the Lourdes Gurriel Jr. ended up being an all-star, I believe. And they traded him for Dalton Varsho. But they wanted to get more left-handed, which I understand. Because the Yankees were dealing with a similar problem, too. Where their whole lineup was right-handed. But that really hasn't panned out. But now, the pitching staff, Chris Bassett, he was good. But now, he's not. He's kind of declined on a little bit. They've just been a disappointment. And going into this year, do I think they're going to be an awful team? No. But I think they're just, they're going to be a team that's going to be on the outside looking in. They've just been so disappointing. Bo Bichette's probably going to be gone too. Who knows? He could be traded at the deadline if, the Blue Jays are completely out of it. Well, then again, I mean, they did sign Santander, so that, they've attempted to improve this lineup. And I think Santander is going to be good for them. And he's, a switch hitter, big bat in that order. So maybe I'm jumping the gun here on, them being on the outside looking in. Maybe they make it as a wild card. I don't think they're going to be awful. But I don't look at this team right now and say, hey, this team is going to be a World Series contender. But there's some other things that maybe, the Blue Jays are a little hesitant with. I know maybe some of his behavior at times. I know Michael Kay was talking about it on the show, and I remember this. So the Blue Jays were basically out of it. And, the Blue Jays walked off the Yankees. Vlad had an RBI single that won the game. And, the Yankees were one game away from clinching the division, and Vlad's on the field saying, not in my house. And then the next night, the Yankees clinched the division in his house. And then I remember Michael Kay saying on the broadcast, it was nice of Vlad Jr. to let the Yankees celebrate their division crown in his house. I thought that was funny. Some people might not, but I thought it was. But yeah, it's just like, why are you doing that? But Vlad is a very good player. I like Vlad. Well, I did until, he said that he does not want to play for the Yankees. And I didn't know this, but supposedly the reason for that is because Vladimir Guerrero, his father, had a verbal agreement with Brian Cashman, the GM, that he was going to be a Yankee. But then all of a sudden, George Steinbrenner went out and got Gary Sheffield. And because of that, they ended up not signing Vlad. It would have been interesting seeing Vladimir Guerrero on the Yankees. But that, I guess, was a reason why Vlad Jr.'s kind of held this grudge against the Yankees. So he did meet with the media. Now let's get back to Vlad Jr. even more here. So he basically said they had their numbers, I had my numbers. This is through his interpreter. And basically said what Juan Soto said. Now they're going to have to compete with 29 other teams. So basically every team has a shot. Not really, but that's what these guys are trained to say when they're asked about their contract. So he has a career .288 batting average. He's entering his 7th season. He's hit at least 30 home runs in 3 of the past 4 seasons. And he's driven at least 90 runs in each season since 2021. But yeah, I mean, this could be another free agent that the Blue Jays miss out on. And the fan base is going to lose it if that ends up happening. So to kind of look at his stats overall over the last several years. So he came up back in, I think it was, 2019? Yeah. So in 2019 came up, 15 home runs, 69 RBIs. His best season was his 2021 season, and that was a very good year for the Blue Jays. He had 48 home runs, 111 RBIs, 86 walks, a .311 batting average, a .401 on-base percentage, a .601 slugging, and basically an 1,000 OPS. And then 32 home runs in 2022, 97 RBIs in that season, 26 homers, 94 RBIs in 2023, and then last year 30 home runs and 103 RBIs. And batted .323, .396 on-base percentage, .544 slugging, and then a .940 OPS. So he was really good last year, and he didn't play in 3 games. He played in 159 games. Since 2021, yeah, I mean, he missed 1 game in 2021, missed 2 games in 2022. He missed 6, so that's 9, and then, so over the last 4 seasons, he's missed 12 games. He's durable. Guy plays pretty much every day. So whoever ends up getting him, that's, now obviously when you get older things change, but he's 27. That's the other thing too. And he's going to hit the open market at, actually no, what am I saying? No, he's 25. My mistake. I don't know why, well, he's number 27. I don't know why, well, I guess that's when, either way, you're getting him at 26, 27 years old after this season. Because he's going to be 26. He's going to be 26 in March. So, yeah, I mean, it's like Juan Soto. Now, I think Juan Soto is a better hitter, better player than Vlad. But Vlad is really good. Vlad is up there as one of the top players in baseball. Especially coming off of a year like he did last year. So, yeah, whoever gets him, they're going to be lucky. I mean, if the Mets got him and Soto, I mean, that is to go along with Lindor. Or if, he went to the Red Sox and you pair him up with Devers. Now, the Yankees, are obviously going to be in the mix, but I don't see him going to the Yankees. I just don't see it. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. And if you give him a 10-year contract, that takes him to when he's about, 36, 37 years old. Rather than, Juan Soto, last 4 years of that contract, it's going to be kind of rough. Because the contract that he signed with the Mets, it takes him till he's 41. So it's going to be rough. But we got ways to go before that. And Met fans don't care about that. Met fans, if there's a chance to get Vladimir Guerrero and Alonso opts out, bye-bye Alonso. They're going to want him. They're going to want Vlad. So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think. Do the Blue Jays keep Vlad, or does he end up going elsewhere next season? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, I'm leaning towards he's going elsewhere. That's my thoughts. But let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Lakers. We'll talk some basketball. So the second half of the season begins. They'll be playing tonight against the Hornets. And, I wanted to give my thoughts on the Luka trade and, what to expect from the Lakers going into the second half. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about the Lakers, what to expect from them in the second half, talk a little bit about the Luka trade. Wanted to just give you my thoughts on it. So, yeah, they begin tonight. Now, this is actually a makeup game. This is the only NBA game that's being played tonight. And this is because of, the wildfires. The game had to be rescheduled because we did have, a handful of postponements with that. So they're playing tonight. I don't know if LeBron is going to play. It doesn't seem like he's going to. The Lakers, they seem to be on the side of let's give him extra rest and make sure that, he's good to go when we need him, because they're going to need him for the playoffs. They're not going to go on a run without LeBron James. And it really is incredible what he's doing at 40. And he talked about it. He said he could go on for really as long as he wants, but he's not going to. It's going to be at least another year or two, I guess, before he retires. But, yeah, he's been dealing with a foot and an ankle injury, so they want to preserve him and make sure that he's ready to go when he needs to be. So we will see Luka Doncic tonight, I would imagine. Lakers are 12-point favorites against the Hornets. The Hornets are not a very good team. So I think the Lakers should win tonight, even without LeBron. But then again, they split the two games with the Jazz. So and the Jazz aren't very good. So who knows? Who knows? The NBA, things happen. Because they beat the Jazz 132-113, and that was in Luka's debut. He had 14 points. So in the two games with the Lakers, both against the Jazz, he played 24 minutes the first game, 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 turnover. And then in the second game against the Jazz, Lakers lost that game. He played 23 minutes, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. But he had 5 turnovers in the game, so that's not great. That's not good. And he had 1 steal. So, right now the Lakers, they're in a good spot. They got the 5th seed. They're a half game behind the Rockets for the 4th seed, so they're maybe looking to pass them. And 3.5 games behind Denver, 2.5 games behind Denver. Can't do math. 3 games behind the Grizzlies, and then you got the Thunder, who are just running away with the West. They're the number 1 team at 44-10. So, I think the Lakers could definitely improve where they are in the standings, but they could also go the other way. And if you're a Lakers fan, you don't want to see that. I think with Luka and LeBron, they're going to win a lot of games. The problem is, and we talked about this in our production meeting, it's, the defensive side of the ball. They're going to be getting into, these high-scoring games because, Luka's not a guy that is known for his defense. So there's concerns there. Now, can the Lakers make a run? See, I know I talked about the Warriors and what Draymond Green said. To me, when comparing the Lakers and the Warriors, also because it doesn't really help when the Warriors are in the 10th spot and the Lakers are in the fifth spot right now in the West. Yeah, I like the Lakers' chances to make a run better than I do Golden State because you have a top 5 player now in Luka to go along with LeBron James. And to talk about the trade for a second, now I'm not the biggest NBA fan, okay, but this trade that the Mavericks and the Lakers made, that even shook me. It definitely had me interested because this doesn't happen where a top 5 player in the sport is just traded. And the other thing too is there was really no indication of this happening. This kind of just happened because I remember I'm ready to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden, I see my phone is blowing up, and I see in my group chat with my friends that this trade is happening. Now, initially, we didn't believe it because we're like, oh, maybe, because Shams reported it, and we were saying, yeah, maybe his account got hacked. There's just no way. But then you start seeing, ESPN's social media account is posting it. And suddenly you're like, yeah, this is legit. This is legit. And already for the Mavericks, it's not panning out because Anthony Davis is out indefinitely. Gets hurt the first game he plays with the Mavericks. But it's just, why would they do that? Now, Mark Cuban, he's not the majority owner anymore of the Mavericks. He kind of sold most of his, stock in the team. And even he didn't know about this. And, he had a quote that, basically saying, yeah, never getting rid of Luka. It's not happening. But even he didn't realize that this was going on. So, yeah, no, it's crazy stuff how a player of Luka's caliber ends up getting moved. And it is good for the Lakers because, again, LeBron is not going to play for that much longer. So, when LeBron leaves, you kind of just, and I apologize for my camera issues here. When LeBron retires, it's now Luka's team. Now he is the next, face of the franchise. So that was easy for the Lakers, right? But, yeah, what a crazy trade. And, oh, wow, that did not help at all. Did not help at all. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So I'm really curious to see how it goes. I'm curious to see how it goes in the postseason. Now, do I think the Lakers are going to win the title? I don't. But I think, they can make a run in the Western Conference. It could happen. Yeah, so we're dealing with some technical issues here. With my camera, as usual, as per usual. Always happens. Well, actually, no, we've been kind of good as of late. So, yeah, we've been kind of carrying, we talked about tradition. It is tradition for my camera to not work, no matter what show I decide to do. Now it's just completely turned off. Nice. Yeah, so, but anyways, I don't know if my mic cut out, but yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think, though. about the Lakers. What do you expect from them? Because again, there, and I brought this up yesterday when talking about Draymond Green. People have their questions of the Thunder. Can the Thunder make a run? I mean, right now they're the best team in the Western Conference. They got all these young players, but last year they got knocked out. Are they ready to go on another run here? You got Memphis. They're back to being a good team with John Moran coming back, and then you also have the Nuggets, of course. They won the championship a couple years ago with Jokic and Jamal Murray. I mean, they're gonna have something to say about it. And the Lakers, they're always matching up against Denver, and they always end up losing. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, and the other thing too is, the Lakers, they signed a big that's not really, earth-shattering, because they were trading for Mark Williams from the Hornets, and that trade ended up not happening because with the injuries. But the Hornets were trying to get that deal done, and the Lakers would have traded Dalton Connect, but now he's staying. So, but and then there's what if they went out and they got Dwight Howard? It's not happening. It's not happening. And there's people saying, why did the Lakers break up that team after they won in the bubble? I don't know. But, yeah, no, Dwight Howard, his days are behind him in the NBA. It's not going to happen. So, but I honestly, right now, I think it's going to come down to who's going to knock off the Celtics in the NBA. They could be a team that goes for a repeat. I know the Cavs are doing really well, but I think the Celtics beat them in a 7-game series. And then you look in the West, and kind of a chalk take, but it's going to be really tough to knock them off because they're a deep team. They got stars all over the place. I'd like to see the Knicks do something, but, something tells me that's not going to happen. But we'll see. It begins tonight, second half. We'll see what Luka brings to the table tonight. Probably going to be no LeBron, but I think the Lakers still win tonight. They should, right? They should win, but anything is possible, like I said before. But let me know what you guys think about the Lakers' second half. What are your expectations for them? For Luka in the second half, for LeBron, let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our final break of the show now. And then when we come back, we'll get back to some NFL talk. We'll talk about what Dak Prescott said of the Cowboys, what he had to say, comparing the Cowboys and the Eagles, and how the Cowboys can compete with the Eagles. They're very close. The gap is very close between the two teams. So I'll give you my thoughts on that. Like I said earlier in the show, this was something I did want to touch upon on the football podcast, but never really got a chance to. But figured, I guess, we'll throw it in here today and discuss it. Two NFC East rivals. Now, the Eagles, of course, are just coming off of a Super Bowl championship, but, Dak's got the confidence that they can go out and they could beat these guys next year. So that will be what we discuss in the final part of the show here. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are going to talk about Dak Prescott and his comments on the Cowboys and the Eagles and how he feels that the Cowboys, are close when it comes to the Eagles. And, is he right about this? How do we feel about that? So, this is basically what he said regarding the Eagles. I feel like we've competed with the Eagles and beat them for the most part when we've played them. I don't want to say check the record when the other guy's holding the trophy right now. So credit to them. They've earned it, and they deserve it by all means. But yeah, we're very close. Now, the Cowboys, they're coming off of a disappointing season. Also, Dak said, especially even watching the NFC Championship and those two teams that we've battled against each and every year a couple of times. As I said, feel confident that we've got the better part each and every time. But just seeing such a dominating fashion in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, credit to them. It's our turn. It's on us. But I don't necessarily agree or disagree with Dak when it comes to the Cowboys competing with the Eagles, because Dak Prescott has done well against the Eagles. They split in 2023. There were two very close games. The Cowboys could have swept the Eagles. And then this year, we really didn't get to see what Dak Prescott and the Cowboys could do against the Eagles because, well, Dak Prescott got hurt. Now, if Dak Prescott did play in these games, I don't think it would have went well for him regardless, because he wasn't doing that great before the injury. Cowboys as a team just were not doing that great. And, the Eagles beat them both times pretty good. And the second game was without Jalen Hurts. They had Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee. And they won, 41-7 the final score was in that game? I think the Cowboys can narrow the gap, though, because, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Dak. We'll see how this defense is next year. I think it could be better than how it was to start out. I think Matt Eberflus as the defensive coordinator, I think that could be a good move. I think they need to improve the running game. I've said that all along. You need to get another pass catcher. I know there's some rumblings of, what if they went out and they got Stephon Diggs and paired him up with CeeDee Lamb? He wants to, Diggs wants to play with his brother, Trayvon Diggs, even though they play on different sides of the ball or opposite sides of the ball. But the Cowboys need to improve this team. And I think this team is close to competing for a playoff, but I think the Eagles, this is their division. I think the Eagles, we talked about this. Could they become the next dynasty? Maybe. They got a lot of talent. And, the Cowboys, they got a first-time head coach in Schottenheimer. And the Eagles, you got Nick Sirianni, who's been to the playoffs every single year. He's been to 2 Super Bowls, and now he's just won one. So, they definitely have some catching up to do. But not only that, what about Washington? You talk about the Eagles, but, and he did bring this up that, competing against these teams a lot. And, Dak has done well against Washington as well, but he didn't play against Washington at all last year because he was hurt. We didn't get to see, a healthy Cowboys team go up against the Commanders. Now, they actually ended up, the funny thing is, they ended up beating the Commanders in Washington. And that was a crazy game. So, I think it's a little too soon to say that because, you got one team that just won the Super Bowl, and the two teams in your division were playing in the championship game. But the Cowboys did, to me, have just an off year. And I do feel like they will be better in 2025. They did have a lot of injuries, but they're going to have to improve this running game, like I said. You figure the defense is going to be better, and you hope Dak is healthy. That's just one of the main things. Make sure your quarterback is healthy. CeeDee Lamb was banged up towards the end of the year too. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm not going to say like the gap is significant between the Eagles and the Cowboys, but the Eagles still got a leg up on the Cowboys, especially after, winning the Super Bowl and Cowboys didn't even make the playoffs, because that's a bad look. You don't even make the playoffs, and this team went on and won the Super Bowl. And not only won, they dominated in that game against a team that was going for a three-peat. look, I don't think the Cowboys are a Super Bowl contender. I mean, look, they just missed the playoffs. But even with a healthy squad, Dak Prescott needs to, first of all, Dak Prescott needs to get past the second round. And then we'll talk. Because he's been in the league now. This is now what, his 10th season? I can't believe it already. I remember his first game against the Giants like it was yesterday. And now he's going into his 10th year. But he only has 2 playoff wins. And his rookie season, he was the 1 seed. And they lost Aaron Rodgers. You know, you beat a Seahawks team that maybe, shouldn't have gotten in, but they did because you got a great coach and a great quarterback at the time in Russell Wilson. They knocked them off. And then you beat Tom Brady. You beat the 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are your 2 playoff wins. And then you get to the second round. You lose to the 49ers. And then they ended up losing. They lost to the Rams in 2018. I got to see more. Dak puts together good regular seasons, but he gets to the postseason and it just doesn't deliver. They got upset by the 7th seed, and now, they missed the playoffs in 2024. So, yeah, they need to make some improvements. But I don't think with Brian Schottenheimer, I don't think he's the answer. That doesn't mean I think the Cowboys are going to be bad, but I don't think they're going to be a team that you're going to look at them and say, yeah, with Brian Schottenheimer at the helm, this team is going to make a deep playoff run. On top of, they got to improve the roster as well. So I think there are things the Cowboys need to focus on first before they start focusing on, hey, we're close with this team. So, but like I said, Dak Prescott has played well against the Eagles. But the Eagles are a different team. I mean, 2023, that collapse by the Eagles, they're a different team. They're a different team. They got off to a little bit of a slow start, but then they kicked it into gear and they only lost 1 game. After they were 2-2, they only lost 1 game. And that game they could have won. They are really good. They're good in all facets of the game. They have a dynamic running game now with Saquon Barkley, top offensive line, solid quarterback, good weapons. Every unit on the defensive side of the ball is solid. Some of the guys could be leaving. Zach Bond, hopefully, they can get him back. Well, as a Giant fan, hey, Giants, go out and get him. Stealing from the Eagles. But they are loaded from top to bottom. The Cowboys have good players on this team, but there are some areas they need to address. And we'll see what they do. Running game, this is a loaded running back class that's coming up. So they got to address that. I feel like offensive line maybe could be an area they could add to as well, the defensive side of the ball, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think, though, about what Dak said. Do you think the Cowboys are close to the Eagles, competing with the Eagles? I don't think there is a significant gap. Like, with the Giants and the Eagles, that is a significant gap. But when you're talking about the Cowboys had an off year. They do have a lot of talent on their team. Not as much as the Eagles, but they do have a decent amount of talent. So, gap is definitely closer than it is, when you talk about the Giants and the rest of the division and the Eagles more specifically. But they got some work to do with the team. And the other thing is, this quarterback, you want to be as good as the Eagles, you got to show up in the playoffs. Got to show up in the playoffs. Because in the regular season, yeah, Dak is solid. But you get to the postseason, it's a whole different thing. And you could point to his playoff wins, like I said, and say, yeah, I'd like to see you go on the road. Like, if he went on the road and he beat the 49ers and he played well, that would have been impressive. Or, you were the 1 seed. You had home field advantage when you were a rookie. And you had a Packers team coming in. Now, Aaron Rodgers was playing great, but Packers defense was bad. But they were behind. And they had to come back. They tied the game, but then, Rodgers, made that throw to Jared Cook. And, they ended up winning the game. And at that time, you're like, all right, well, Dak's a rookie. But now, here we are, and has not gotten to a championship game. I don't know if he is ever going to. Now, I don't think the NFC is as loaded as it once was, but there are teams you look at and you say, yeah, they're better than Dallas. They're better than Dallas. There's a handful of teams that are better than Dallas. So, that's kind of my thoughts. But, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got spring training is coming up this week, which I'm really excited about. NBA second half starts tonight. We talked about that. We're getting closer and closer to the new league year in the NFL, and when that happens, free agency will begin. So with the NBA, you got one game tonight, and then everybody's back on Thursday. So tomorrow. So we'll, take a look at some of those matchups as well. And then, we're in the home stretch, and March Madness is around the corner as well. I think every team has basically like 5 games left. I'm looking at Alabama's schedule right now. So they got 6 games. Everybody's got at least 5 or 6 games left. So then you get the conference tournaments, and then March Madness. And we will do a bracket. Love doing brackets. So it's going to be it's fun. It's a fun time. And we'll try to cover it the best way we can. So, like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well on the network, and make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. I will make sure to have all the individual segments up separately throughout the day. And, a couple more days, and then, first week in the books as the GSMC Sports Podcast host. It's not too bad, and we're slowly, trying to, because I'm still doing football podcast habits, because because we were doing it for so long. You gotta remember, we're not doing that. Gotta make sure everything says sports, and make sure you're putting the sports podcast content up where it needs to be, things like that. But we'll get there. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC GSMC Sports Podcast. See what I mean? GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit.